How do you get great at speaking? This is what I'm going to talk about in this episode today, is how in the world do you get great at speaking? So many people wonder how it is that you get great at speaking, and there's so many things that we could look at, so many things that we could talk about, but at the end of the day, it comes down to this one simple thing. This one simple thing that will allow you to become the great speaker that you're meant to be. And what is that? It's to talk more. Literally to talk more. I know it seems crazy, seems way out there, overly complex, but I promise it's not. It is not, because that's what you should be doing every day. And you probably are doing it every day, but you're not consciously thinking about that. You're simply just speaking. You're having conversations with people, you're texting others, you're on a phone call, you're in person, Zoom, Teams, Google Meetups, whatever that looks like. You are constantly in some kind of conversation, emails as well. That's one that I know we all do pretty much on a daily basis. But those are things that you're constantly doing every single day. But are you consciously making yourself get better at speaking? Are you consciously thinking about what it is that you said in this message and the answer you got to that, or the reaction that you got to that? Because that's what an answer is. An answer to something you said is a reaction back. It's not necessarily an answer. I mean, it is an answer, but think about it that way. It's a reaction back. So if you get a negative reaction to something that you talked about, that you mentioned, you asked a question on, it's probably because of the way you said it, not what you said, but the way that you said it, the tonality within that, or maybe if it's in a text, those are the worst because you can't get the tonality of that. So the expectation of the person that you text was that you were possibly going to be negative with her, you were going to be mad at them. And so they had an expectation and returned or volleyed back that answer with what they expected from you. What they perceived was that you said to them, or the tonality that you said to them. So texting is by far the worst way to do it, but also it's the best way for you to be able to get better at speaking. And that's not where this was necessarily going to go, but I want to go down this tangent a little bit. Just think about that. If you can be perceived the proper way in a text message or an email, think how much better you're going to be perceived when you actually can speak and somebody can hear you with your tonality, with the body expressions that you have. Think about that. So start with that texting. Figure out ways to be able to express yourself more, which usually means speaking more words. And that's a lot of our problem when it comes to text or email form of communication, is that we basically text the way that we talk, but it's not perceived, or you don't have the full information because of what you text. It doesn't transpire completely over a text or an email. So you have to add in additional information, additional details into those texts or emails, so that way the person can get the actual message that you're trying to present them. But if they do come back with an answer that seems off keel, it seems like something that really shouldn't have been the way they responded to that, make sure you address that. Say, hey, look, this is not what I meant. This is what I meant here. This was not meant to be a negative thing, or however they react. Or they're super positive, even though you give them bad news. Make sure that they know, hey, this is bad news, by the way. And this actually happened to somebody I know. They were giving a review of this intern, and the intern, after they gave bad news, the intern was like, oh, yeah, makes sense. That's a fair assessment. And then the guy that was giving him the assessment was like, I want to let you know that this is a bad thing. Like, we're saying that you're not doing your job. Yep, totally understand. Yeah, it sounds good to me. I think that's a good thing. And he said it again. Hey, by the way, this is not good, intern. And the intern was still just totally confused. So that was definitely not on that person giving that intern that information. But somehow the intern on that one, he was just not understanding. But what I want to point out is the person giving that feedback to the intern made sure to emphasize that it was not a good thing that they were talking about. The feedback was not in a good context, especially since what he received back from the intern was that he thought it was good. So I thought that was great communication in that aspect. But going back to getting better at speaking by just talking more, make sure that you are over communicating in what you're saying. Words are important. And of course, on the text and emails, that's all you got. But when you're speaking to somebody, you also have your facial expressions. If I'm here clenching my fists, and if you're watching the YouTube video, you can see this, but I've got my hands up like I'm about to punch somebody, even if they're down at my side, which you can't see my hands down at my side, that's why I brought them up. If they were down at my side and my hands are clenched, it looks like I'm frustrated. I'm getting ready to start punching somebody. Maybe my muscles are bulging here and just veins popping on my neck. I'm looking pretty pissed right now. You might not want to give me some bad information if you're coming up to me, or you're going to try and diffuse the situation, because even though I may be talking to you kind of normal, you see my fist clenched, my arms clenched, you're going to think, "Oh crap, feeling pretty pissed right now. I better diffuse this situation. I better calm down that situation." And same thing, if I'm smiling really big, I look very happy. And so maybe you can relay some bad information, or you can get the vibe that I'm happy. So when you're going through and talking, make sure that you are showing the correct emotions as well. We got the other one, RBF, which is a resting face that all of you know about. But with that face as well, you can be happy as can be, but if you look miserable, then what does that really matter? I mean, so many people will sit here and they have this most miserable face on. It's like, yeah, I'm having a good time. I'm really enjoying myself here. And again, for those of you not able to see this because you're listening to the podcast, my face was literally flat. I mean, I looked like I was pissed off almost, or bored to death, but here I am saying, yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And you can even hear it in my tone that I don't sound happy to be here. But if I'm smiling, yeah, I'm happy to be here. You can tell that I'm happy to be here. So when it comes to speaking, if you want to get better, start talking more and consciously think about how you're talking. Think about what your body tones look like. Think about what your voice sounds like. Because when you focus on all these things and you continue to talk more and more, this is how you're going to get better. So continue to talk and think consciously and make a conscious effort to get better at your speaking.